Hello everyone, welcome to the third interview in a series that we're doing on non-personal data. Today we have with us Mr. Sahil Deo, who is co-founder of CPC Analytics, which is a data-driven consulting firm with offices in Berlin and Pune. Mr. Deo has a master's in public policy from the Hertie School, Berlin, where he is currently a PhD candidate. He also is an undergraduate in computer engineering from the University of Pune and École des Mines, France. Thank you, Mr. Deo, for being here with us today.
Thanks a lot for having me.
So, as we had discussed in the previous interview, the ideas behind this series is to get perspectives from people who work with data on a day-to-day basis so that it can form policy with regards to non-personal data, which is going to be forthcoming in the Indian context over the next year or so. So it would be interesting to get an idea of what exactly it is that you do and the nature of data that you work with.
So basically, we are a 6.5-year-old firm, as you mentioned in the introduction. We work at the intersection of data analytics and public policy consulting. So we behave more like a policy consulting firm than a pure data analytics firm. Most of our clients are in the public sector. So try to use this data for better public sector decisions. That's where we work. In terms of the kinds of data that we use structured as well as unstructured data. So by structured, we would use data that can be crudely put in an Excel sheet. But beyond that, also deal with text data and image data. That's the kind of data that we use.
So while dealing with this sort of data where it's structured and unstructured, are you currently in your data handling practices making any segregation between personal and non-personal, or are there any other grounds on which you're differentiating between the various kinds of data that you deal with?
Okay, so that's a very pertinent question. Right? So my PhD is in the regulation of algorithms. So I'm very personally as well very sensitive to this topic. So we take utmost care of personal data, right? But what I feel and the way we tend to think about it is from a output perspective, right? Trying to think of how this data would be used, and that's how we try to segregate this data, right? So it might be that a non-personal data set might affect people very directly. So from our perspective, that data is then as sensitive as any other personal data. Right? So yes, we do differentiate personal and non-personal data, but we also try to differentiate based on how this data is used.
Right. So you mentioned that you focus primarily on output data, which brings me to the question of access. So it's a two-level question here. Firstly, as you said, you're more concerned with algorithms and algorithmic accountability. So that raises the question of training data and how easy it is to acquire training data in this country on specific things that you're working on. And secondly, is access to the output data you're creating, which can have potential policy benefits not only for the government but other researchers or people working in the same field who could make use of it.
So, as you rightly pointed out, a lot of the advanced algorithms that we speak of now need massive amounts of training data, and the quality of this training data defines the accuracy and the recall of the output, right? So training data is very crucial. So I personally am all in for open access with regards to such training data sets. These data sets can be anonymized as far as possible, right? But come to our work,
Mm-hmm.
they're like either the client themselves provide us training data that we then get labeled to other firms or label these data sets internally. So that's one way. The other way is to use newer techniques such as federated learning,
Mm-hmm.
which means that the data is actually not transferred to us, but our algorithm goes to the data in a way, right?
Right.
And uses that data and extract learning from that data, but we never get that data, right? So
Right.
in a lot of examples around health where data is extremely sensitive, federated learning seems to be the best way forward in terms of respecting data privacy, data ownership, but also transferring the learning from that data to another firm that might use this data for the betterment of society. So
Right.
that's what we do.
I think you make a very interesting point about there being a need for open access, particularly when it comes to training data. But the other side of that argument always is, how do we incentivize people to continue to invest in the creation of such data sets, given that it will be shared freely and openly on the market? So, are there any best practices that you're aware of, or any sharing models that you feel could be implemented, not if on a countrywide level, but at least something that we can move towards in India?
Okay, so like for a large German foundation, we are concluding a study
Mm-hmm.
which tries to look at potential of collaborative AI development between India and Germany.
Okay.
So we are aware of such a study that was done for India and the UK. So I think uh, there is interest on all sides, right? Because typically a firm that might have a great data set in one field does not have data about the complete ecosystem. And in analytics, having breadth of data is extremely useful, right?
Right.
So it's never that a company would be very happy with the exclusive data that they have. Right? So
Right.
I think there is a mutual win-win potential if
Mhm.
different stakeholders were to come together and share data. We see this happening when you look at self-driving vehicles. Mapping is an extremely crucial feature that would be needed, right? And a lot of the German auto firms have realized that Apple or Google have better mapping capabilities than them.
Right.
So they formed a consortium, acquired a firm, and are collaboratively building this data set that all of
Right.
them would use. Right? So that's one, but there are other scenarios where cities put out their data in open. Like Pune Municipal Corporation has a phenomenal open data portal, which
Mhm.
is probably one of the best in the country, where they try to make uh, granular data publicly accessible
Right.
so that NGOs and other civil society activists could use this data to make suggestions to the city as well as provide certain services to citizens.
Right.
So I think going forward, we would see a lot more of this. So open data in the sense of purely open.
Mhm.
The other variant of open data might be it's still private, but it's open within an ecosystem.
Right. Right. I think that gives us some great insights into how this could be mobilized. And coming now to use of data, particularly for policy purposes. So here I want to get your thoughts on, firstly, what are the various ways in which data is currently being used and could be used to inform policy? And secondly, whether you feel there are any pitfalls or issues associated with database policy making in general.
So, like just to contextualize this in the current unprecedented COVID-19
Yeah.
pandemic situation that we are in. So if we look at the two aspects of this pandemic, so the health and the economic, so the lives
Mhm.
and the livelihood debate. So I think data has a role to play in both of these aspects. So if we look at the health aspect first, which is unarguably more important, planning for health infrastructure has been one of the greatest targets or objectives of the lockdown that the central government imposed.
Right.
So when we say health infrastructure, it implies having data points for each of these and trying to see how these data points have progressed during the lockdown, right? So there, like I think most of us saw data being used widely to drive decisions. Coming to the livelihood aspect as well, if you take the example of an RBI consumer survey
Mm-hmm.
or the confidence, where they track confidence levels among consumers, I think such a survey, which is essentially data, is also useful in driving public sector as well as private sector decisions. So
Right.
I feel the importance of data for decisions would grow over time and not reduce. So that's answering the first question. The second question is what you said is again very valid. Data is not like it's not a golden bullet, right? Like I don't think data answers everything. Qualitative aspects are as important, which might not be captured in quantitative data. So I think data complements decisions, but the qualitative aspects are as crucial. Right?
Right.
And we believe that a combination of both of these help policymakers take better decisions. Right? So
Right.
we would not want to rate one over the other.
Right. Understood. Thank you, Mr. Deo. This has been a very enlightening conversation. I've got some points to incorporate into the paper that we hope to put out as a result of this series. I look forward to seeing more of your updates with regards to COVID and how it's progressing in various districts in Maharashtra. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Thanks, Mohit. Bye.